Hey everyone, this is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials here on Facebook. If you're joining us on YouTube, please be sure to come join our Facebook group where all of our videos air live before they're added to our YouTube channel unedited. And of course, if you're catching us live on Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Those links are in the video description depending on where you're watching. Tonight's tutorial is on how to remove a background in Affinity Designer. You're going to find that this is actually very easy and there are a few different options depending on what your goal is for the graphic that you need to remove the background of. This is actually a really popular question that we get, so I wanted to make sure to go over it again so that we would have a video on our YouTube channel. As you're watching tonight, keep in mind that if you would like to learn everything there is to know about Affinity Designer and master using this software for your own graphic design and photo editing purposes, then check out our Affinity Designer Digital Graphic Design Masterclass for Sublimation. This is a 100-hour learn at your own pace video course, perfect for beginners and those who have a little bit of experience alike. This course will teach you everything that you need to know about the art of sublimation and graphic design, how to use Affinity Designer, including how to create and sell your digital goods. Let's go ahead and dive in now. I have 3 different images here I picked so I can show you 3 different ways to remove your background. So let's start with this one of Jasper. So you can see Jasper's got a background here. This is just a photo that I have. And so often we find that removing a background from a picture of someone is the #1 question that people have. You can do this pretty easily in Affinity Designer. There are just a couple of steps. So for anything that has a busy background and doesn't necessarily have solid edges, what we're going to do is use our pixel persona to remove the background. The first thing that we need to do is right click and rasterize our graphic. But before you do that, you need to make sure that your image is as big as you want it to be for the use that you intend on using it. Once you rasterize something, it's going to convert it over into a pixel-based format, and then the resolution is going to be locked in at whatever size you have it in. So I'm just using smaller artboards today, but keep that in mind, especially if you plan on using images on shirts where it's going to need to be fairly large. So once you have your photograph sized accordingly, you will right-click on it and select Rasterize from the pop-up menu. You'll notice in the top that it will now say it is a pixel. It also should say it next to this. We just can't see because of the name. If I just rename that, you'll see that it says pixel layer there, whereas before it was an image layer. Now we're going to select over to our pixel persona, which is this icon at the top here with the little scattered squares. For this one, we're going to use our selection lasso tool, which is or selection brush tool, which is this one that looks like a paintbrush with a dotted line under it. This is the easiest way to do it. You'll notice that you have some options here in your context toolbar. Snap to edges and soft edges are best to have selected, especially when you're working on a graphic like this where you do have a lot of soft edges that you want to snap to. You can adjust your width with the slider here, and you can choose add or subtract depending on what you're doing. So I currently have add selected, and once you start just holding your cursor down, it's going to snap to those edges of the object that you are tracing. So now you notice here I went off the edge of Jasper and it snapped onto the background, the old apartment that we used to live in. So if something like that happens, or if you find areas that you don't want to be selected, I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit better, you will select the subtract option and then you will nudge it along and it will remove that space. Now, if you find that you're coming up into a tight space, you can decrease the size of your brush. And that will allow you to snap into those tighter spaces as well. When you're using the selection tool, you can get it as close to perfect as you can. The smaller brush you use and the closer you zoom in will give you the most accuracy, especially if you're looking at areas like this where some of your colors sort of blend in. That makes it a little bit easy or a little bit more difficult for the program to perfectly grab them. So using a smaller brush can be more advantageous. Once you are sure that you have all of your areas selected, so I'm like looking along my edges here, make sure I'm not missing anything important. Grab a little bit of that soft edge. All right, once you have it selected, if you wish to remove the background, don't move anything on your workspace. You're going to right click on your selected area and you're going to hit copy, and then you're going to right click again and you're going to hit paste. You can also use Control or Command C or V. You'll notice that this became a whole new layer. If I deselect that first layer, we have a whole separate layer here. And then if we go to select and deselect, don't forget to deselect, that's Control or Command D. You will see that we now have our independent Jasper layer that we could move on to any type of graphic that we wanted. Now let's slide over to our next artboard. And on this artboard, I just have a picture that I licensed off of Adobe Stock a while back, and it has a white background. Now, ending up with a JPEG with a white background is another common reason why someone wants to remove a background. And it doesn't really matter if it's white or black or blue or any color for this particular step. This approach that we're about to use is perfect for when you have an object that has a solid colored background. So we're still going to be working in the pixel persona for this as well. And because this is an image and we're in the pixel persona, we need to rasterize our graphic to make sure that it's in a pixel format so that our editing will actually work on the graphic. So we right click and select rasterize. And again, make sure that you have your graphic size, the size that you want it to be first, because as soon as you hit that rasterize button, the resolution will be locked in at whatever size it is. So once you have converted it to a pixel format, and you'll notice that it does say pixel next to it, you will go to select sampled color. And you will select whatever color the background is that you want to remove. It will auto select the main color of your picture. So in this case, it auto selected the white, but you can choose to use your crosshairs there to select which one you want. Next, you can adjust the tolerance level with this slider if you feel like it's not picking up haze or different soft gradients that might be around a color that you are removing. You will then hit apply, and you can hit the delete key or backspace key if you're using a Windows computer. And if you are using a Mac, instead you will go to edit and then delete. And once you do that, you will have removed the background. You always want to make sure to follow up by going with select and then deselect. Now, this particular graphic is not a problem for this, but I do want to show you back over in the designer persona. Anytime you remove a background that is white, you want to make sure, or any color, anytime you remove any kind of solid colored background, you want to make sure you put a contrasting color to that background behind it to make sure you actually removed all of the background. So I will just grab my rectangle tool and I will click and draw a rectangle. I'm going to make it black and I'm going to put it behind my gourds. If we had not removed all of the background, we would see a white haze around here. And this happens a lot, especially when you're removing different color solid backgrounds. Sometimes you think that you've gotten all of the colors, but the program is registering the color of the pixels, and some of those pixels might be different hues. So if that happens, you want to make sure that you put this behind it. And then if you see any kind of haze around, you want to repeat those steps of going to select sampled color. Sorry, that's in the pixel persona. of being in the pixel persona and going to select sampled color and choosing a new color from your background if there was a haze or something in here. I know I need to bring this up because I have had people ask about this before, and that's what happens. Sometimes your background does not fully remove because the pixels might be half shades that created that look that you saw, and that is an easy step. You just put a dark colored background behind it, or a white background if you happen to be removing a black background. And any place you see any kind of a haze, you repeat that step of deleting that color out of your design until you actually have nice crisp edges like you see here. And the last way, this is a pretty quick tutorial tonight. The last step is to use your curve tool and create a custom clipping mask. So this is done in your designer persona. And this is great if you have something that has a relatively solid shape, and if you don't want to hinder the current resolution of your graphic. So this little lip balm template is perfect for this. We will select our pen tool and we are going to simply create a curve outline that lines up with this lip balm. So I will just, with your pen tool, you simply add your nodes at each key point. And you also want to add a node anywhere you are starting and ending a curve. So see, this is about to curve here. So we will put one right here and we'll put one here. And then this is curving under. So we want one at the other end of that. And it's still curving around. So we'll put two down here. And sometimes you can add some extra ones. It always kind of depends on the curve itself. And you want to finish off and close your curve by ending on the node that you started on. Next, you will take your node tool, which is this one that looks like a little cursor, and you will adjust all of your lines to line up with your object that you were attempting to outline and remove the background of. So all you really do is drag on that line, hold your cursor down and drag. And then if you see any areas that need to be a little bit tighter, you can adjust your nodes in, or you can use these handlebars to make it a little bit tighter as well. This node is round because it converted to a sharp node, which is not what, or smooth node, which is not what we want. So with that selected, I'm going to go up here to my context toolbar and select convert to sharp. And this will give me the ability to adjust these independently of each other, which is what I do want. Here we go. All right, and then this node we'll just bring a little bit closer. And it looks like this one needs to come out and a little closer as well. So all we're doing is adjusting our lines. And I use this particular step anytime I have something that's fairly simple like this, but might not necessarily have a simple background. It really does just make it fairly quick and easy to make some adjustments to the overall outline and get it with probably the best precision. This actually does work a little bit better than the first two methods for something like this. I mean, you could technically use this even on photographs, but it is a bit more time consuming to have to work your way through every little hair and fine pixel and whatnot. So for nice solid edged items, smooth edged items like this is actually perfect. And then you simply adjust any nodes that you need to. You can use your arrow keys on your keyboard like I just did to tap them out. You can use the handlebars to adjust that line. And this does move pretty quickly. we should be just about at the end here. We're on the last stroke between our nodes. And I think other than that, we just need to bring this one in just a hair. Okay, once you have your curve completely set, you're going to clip your image inside of the curve. So here's our curve that we just created, and I'm going to drag this into the name to be able to clip it. So if you watch my cursor in the layers panel, you drag it into the name and you will see this 3/4 length rectangle along the bottom. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see it a full length because that full length means that you're just moving the layer above it, and you don't want it next to it either. You want your cursor to be right below the name, and you're almost guaranteed to be in the right spot every time. So then when we do that, we have now removed the background of this entire photo and we're left with just the area that we wanted. We basically created an area of selective visibility, and you can easily resize that as well if you need to. So that's it. Just a really quick tutorial tonight to make sure that we had one that covered how to remove a background in Affinity Designer, because this is such a popular question. And there are a few different reasons why you might need to remove a background, all of which I showed here today. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to post them to our Facebook group. And if you're interested in the Affinity Designer Digital Graphic Design Masterclass, be sure to check out the link in the video description where you can sign up and use the group code SUBTHAT to save $30. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great rest of your night.